What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to the Nerdy Narrative, a channel where I talk about all of the things that I read. And today I would love to take the opportunity to review for you the Phillips Archive by Luke Arnold. I have all three of the books here that I have read over the last 3 months. The first one is The Last Mile in Sunder City. The second one is Dead Man in a Ditch. And the third one is One Foot in the Fade. I love these covers. If you take a look at them up close, each cover shows you a different part of Sunder City, the streets that Fetch and friends will traverse as he is investigating the different types of cases that he takes on, which leads me into what is this urban fantasy series by Luke Arnold all about? The series centers around Fetch Phillips. He's a former soldier turned private investigator who's trying to help all of the fantasy creatures, magical beings, whose lives he ruined in a world that lost its magic in an event called the Coda, which actually took place 6 years before this series began. Readers will find, along with Fetch Phillips and that debut novel, The Last Mile of Sunder City, the magic may be gone, but the monsters still remain. If you're a reader like me, you might be thinking to yourself, an urban fantasy series with no magic? I even thought I might not would like it, but it actually turns out to be one of the most interesting elements of this series that I have really enjoyed and been hanging on the edge of my seat for the next installment for the whole time. Let's take a look at the series overall and break it down and see if this is one you might want to pick up. Let's start with characters. I absolutely love the characters that we meet in this series. Of course, we start out with a small cast of characters in The Last Mile of Sunder City. With each installment of the series, we meet more characters. The world expands and gets a little bit bigger, so it's growing gradually, which I love. It's easy for me to keep up and remember the characters. There's not so many introduced that I lose track of, and they're so endearing. This is something that Luke excels in, writing their interactions with one another and writing moments. And I really honestly think that has to do with his career in acting, which, if you're not aware, Luke Arnold, one of the many hats that he wears as an actor, the role I'm familiar with is his Long John Silver in Black Sails, and I think he really took what he's learned from his acting career and put it into his novels. One thing you learn about Fetch early on that is a common characteristic in a noir type urban fantasy style setting, our boy Fetch has got a mouth on him and he is not afraid to use it, and sometimes he smarts off when it's really not in his best interest to do so. And then you'll turn the page and it'll be a new chapter where some event has happened, a death, something tragic, and Luke Arnold will stop you in your tracks with just the gravity of the situation or the beauty of a particular character, and you're just left stunned. It was such a joy to watch him get better and hone his craft over the series. By the time he got to One Foot in the Fade, he had achieved perfection in my opinion. When you are able to write characters that I get emotionally invested in, I am crying either with joy for something good that happened to them, or someone was lost, and just the grief of a character just envelops me where I'm sitting there crying my eyes out. Watching that talent come out over these 3 books has just been as much fun and enjoyable as reading the story itself. As far as the setting, most of these 3 books take place in Sunder City, except for the last book we venture out into a different part of the world of Artetelos. Again, Luke Arnold does a great job describing all of the different areas we take place. Even when we're spending the majority of our time in Sunder City, the way that Luke Arnold describes these different areas is just amazing. It's like in my mind's eye, an artist is drawing these buildings, these alleys. As Luke is describing them, I can picture them so clearly in my mind, what they all look like. This is not an urban fantasy series that I would classify as a monster of the week. While we do have a case that does get resolved in each of the 3 novels that are out so far, there are a whole host of other elements that get introduced that build into an overarching theme and just feed into the intrigue. And then of course the whole time, all of the magical creatures that Fetch is helping, and then eventually the reader is going to get pulled into it as well. The hope that there will be some way magic is brought back into the world. And I mentioned earlier that the loss of magic is one of the most interesting things about this series. The reason why is even though the magic is gone, the magical creatures and beings that used to have magic, even though they no longer have it, they're still alive. They're having to adjust to this life without their magic. And just watching these creatures still manage to have a spark of hope that magic will one day return. It's just going to capture your heart. You're going to find yourself hoping alongside them. That alone just kept me turning those pages to see what was going to happen next. Something I forgot to mention when I was talking about characters and how Luke is so good at writing characters, character moments. What goes hand in hand with that are character relationships. All three of these books brought me to tears over character interactions and relationships. So if you've been keeping up, I've said nothing negative about this series because I have nothing negative to say. This is a series I'm going to enjoy rereading many times over the years. Have you read The Fetch Phillips Archive by Luke Arnold? If you haven't, I hope I was able to give you enough information in this review that you can make an informed decision of whether or not you might want to pick up this series. Thank you so much for watching and being here today. I really appreciate it. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.